Hey, Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie?
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9. The voice of the Cqrolinas.
And welcome to the program on your Thursday afternoon. Yeah, you heard that right just a moment ago. They are calling for snow Saturday night into Sunday. Now, this is still up in the air right now. I will tell you that they've got some computer models, and they run them at regular intervals. And the next one is going to come out right about 6 o'clock this afternoon. That's when they're going to do the latest computer model run. Right now, we've got three possibilities. Why? Because we got three different computer models that folks are looking at. Number one, the high-resolution model says that we could have widespread, impactful accumulating snow. That's the high-definition model, or the high-resolution model, rather. The GFS model says some snow in western North Carolina, and then south of us in the Midlands, they could be getting more snow than we are. Then the European model says maybe some steady snow, but, you know, some going further south, like down to the low country, they might be getting snow. But what really surprised me about snow, do you know when the last time was since we had an inch of snow? JJ, how long do you think it's been? How many days do you think it's been since we've had an inch of snow here in the upstate of South Carolina, in Greenville? Over 365. Yes, that would be a good guess. But it has been 1,459 days. 1,459 days. Weirdly enough, for Charleston, it's only been 357 days since they had an inch of snow. So almost 3 times longer there. So anyway, but they are calling for a chance of snow coming up Saturday into Sunday. Some of these models are saying we're going to have snow like between 4 and 6 on Sunday morning. Then it's going to kind of taper off, and then we could have another round come in a little afternoon. Again, we'll know a lot more about 6 o'clock this afternoon to find out what's going on with that. And so, are you for it or against it? Do you want to see it or do you not want to see it? I want to see it, but here's the thing. I like snow. I like snow. I just don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to have to do, I like it when it comes, nice, it's fluffy and all of that, and then it goes away pretty quickly. Here one day, gone the next, that's absolutely fine. I don't want to be shoveling any of that mess. But speaking of snow shovels, did you see where that ICE officer was attacked, fired in self-defense because he was attacked by somebody with a snow shovel? Yeah, we'll bring that story to you coming up. But we got some really good news about the economy to start the program off, ladies and gentlemen, and this has to do with unemployment.
And finally, we're populating on claims under 200 on initial claims for the week of January 10th. That's 198,000. 198,000. Now, we have had some sub-200s, some of them revised away, but one still stands. That was the last week in November when it was 192,000. And these numbers are getting very close to going back into kind of the Beatles era in terms of how low they are.
Yeah, they are. Another win for President Trump. Unemployment numbers coming in much lower than expected, and it's because of how this guy is actually handling our economy. Also, it has just been announced that we have entered into a massive trade deal with Taiwan.
Economy is booming.
You don't need me, Larry.
7%. The inflation rate is coming down. Fourth quarter inflation was 1.6% on a core basis.
Look at the record highs in the stock market. Almost 50,000 on the Dow.
There's almost $200 trillion worth of wealth in this country. This is the Trump. I mean, this is sit back and enjoy it.
Can I get the news in, Larry?
Enjoy it.
All right, so this was just announced a few moments ago.
Yeah.
Taiwan will be investing $250 billion in U.S. chip making. This is a new trade deal that was just announced between the U.S. and Taiwan. Okay, formally, your reaction.
Formally, my reaction is it's terrific.
There you go.
And you know what? China eats your heart out.
Hey, he's exactly right. China eats your heart out. So So again, you got to look at it. Got GDP growth, 4.7%. That's 4.5, 4.7. That's amazing. In fact, the Atlanta Fed has us at about 5.4%. Then we had core inflation in the ones. Overall, consumer price index, 2.7%. No growth there from last quarter. Then we've got unemployment claims down. Listen, it's like Larry Kudlow said, sit back and enjoy this. Because you've got actually Republicans out there that are trying to shut down the Trump economy. And I'll give you a great example. We're going to talk more about this coming up in just a little bit. 81 rhinos voted on an amendment voted no on an amendment to defund $315 million for an NGO that is actively censoring people, that pays to censor people worldwide. $315 million. So I know the first question you're asking, did anybody in South Carolina vote against this amendment? Yes. Yes, they did. Representative Joe Wilson voted against this amendment, voted to shut this amendment down. Now, here's the deal. Remember when everybody was in there and they were talking, and Elon Musk had Doge going on, and we had the Doge committee going on and all of that stuff, and then people were like, yeah, root out the fraud, root out the waste, root out all of the excessive spending. And then what have they done with it? Virtually nothing. Virtually nothing. Elon Musk found all of this garbage. That's why we no longer have USAID. But we do still have some of these NGOs around. That's why we no longer fund PBS. $315 million in funding for an organization that actively works to censor people around the globe. Now, here's the thing. If you are a member of Congress in the United States of America, and the very First Amendment is freedom of speech, why would you be sending taxpayer dollars to fund an organization who violates people's freedom of speech? That I don't understand. I really don't get it. But we'll talk more about this coming up. Also, there is a couple of bills coming up we really need you to be aware of. The bill that Drew McKissick talked about yesterday, 3643, that's got a clause in there. That's got a section in there that you really need to be aware of. And because of this clause in that bill that would, kind of shut down the primaries, a lot of people are abandoning that bill. Now, are they really abandoning the bill, or are they just dragging their feet until after the primaries coming up in June? We'll find out. More insurrection in Minneapolis. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of breaking news and stimulating talk begins every hour on the Charlie James Show. Afternoons 3 to 7 on News Talk 98.9.
WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. Let your fingers do the talking.
Text the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line at 800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, these are not protests anymore in Minneapolis. They are full out, all out insurrection. Last night, these rioters, the insurrectionists, used a vehicle to ram an ICE vehicle. That popped the latch of that ICE vehicle. They went in, they broke open a lockbox that was inside the vehicle. They stole files. They stole a firearm out of that vehicle. And there's a guy online, his name is Andrew Marcato. He's probably one of the worst out there. Andrew Marcato is now reading or publishing those files online on his X account, but that's locked. You can't go see it. He has to approve you as a friend for that to happen. So Marcato, what people are saying is he's taking these files in, and these files include people that are wanted by ICE, people that, where they're going, some of the plans that are planning to be implemented. But they rammed that vehicle, another vehicle ramming last night. So somebody else was shot by ICE last night. Now, the media has been a little bit quiet about this because they're like, oh, crap, because this guy was attacking an ICE officer with a snow shovel. And like I said before, if you ever find yourself on the business end of law enforcement's firearm, you have made a really bad decision somewhere along the way. So they were attacking this ICE agent with like I said, a snow shovel. They were attacking him with sticks and things like that. And he said, I'm in danger now. I got to do something to stop this. So he pulled his firearm and he shot the guy in the leg, from what we hear. And it really is unbelievable how things are going on in Minneapolis. It really is. Again, this is insurrection. 100%. And they are afraid that President Trump is going to use the Insurrection Act. Well, I think maybe it's time. This is Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
Because if you look at the mainstream press, they're helping them. They're misportraying the situation on the ground. We had an officer last night viciously attacked with weapons, 3-on-1, where his life was in danger, and he defended himself. And you see a lot of news reports out there that it was another ICE shooting. They didn't report anything about the weapons or the fact that these individuals came out of a home to beat him mercilessly with a shovel, and that he had to protect his own life and his colleagues that were soon coming to back him up. So absolutely, I think that this is a distraction for him. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to continue to talk about the fraud and the stealing from the American taxpayers that he has allowed to have happen in Minneapolis. It is the largest fraudulent scheme in American history, we believe. It's in Minnesota. We're going to get to the bottom of it and bring people to justice, even the elected officials that allowed it to happen.
I certainly hope so. I hope they bring elected officials under indictment of this. That would be the wise thing to do, would it not? But they're afraid. They're scared that Trump's going to use the Insurrection Act.
Those agitators, those lawbreakers from attacking ICE agents. And so if you can use the Minneapolis police to get those agitators who are attacking ICE agents out of the situation, get them out of there, then you don't have to resort to this. But that really is where it comes down to it, because these ICE agents are conducting lawful activities. I understand the mayor doesn't like it and the governor doesn't like it, but remember the root cause of this. Joe Biden let millions of unvetted foreigners into this country, many of them criminals. Many of them went to sanctuary cities like Minneapolis. They're committing crimes, bringing drugs, murder, other things to communities, and the ICE agents have the responsibility to get those lawbreakers, apprehend them, and bring them to justice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Jacob Fry, I want you to listen to what he says, because this is
Thousand.
Oh, hush. This is one of those things where you go, he's right, but not in the way that he thinks he's right.
Imagine if that city or that town was suddenly invaded by thousands of federal agents that do not share the values that you hold dear.
Okay, well, let's just take it another step further. Imagine your country is invaded by illegal immigrants who don't hold or don't share the values that you hold dear. Just imagine what that would be like, Jacob Fry. We could all imagine that, right? We don't have to imagine it. It's happening. It's happening everywhere you look, especially in Minnesota, where they have imported these Somalians who have no interest whatsoever of assimilating into the culture. Tim Walz changed the Minnesota flag, he and the state legislature, changed the Minnesota state flag to look like the Somali flag. Man, if that's not an act of surrender, I don't know what is. I really don't. And then how are they repaid for that? Massive amounts of fraud that Tim Walz and his government allowed. And they knew it was happening. They knew it was happening, but if anybody threatened to blow the whistle, they were threatened with being labeled a racist and basically having their lives ruined. That's exactly what's going on. So let's go to George in Greer. George, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure. Just a thought. Why aren't the broadcasters held in contempt? They're perpetrating this.
Yeah.
Exacerbating it. And I just like to see something done about them.
Well, because they hide behind freedom of the press. That's what they do. They hide behind and journalistic standards. That's what they do. So, but you're right. They're just as complicit in fanning the flames here as all of these people are calling for ICE agents to be shot. I want you to listen to this guy. I mean, what a clown this guy is. He says, I mean, he's an avowed communist. Listen to what he says.
I have an idea. A No Kings protest, but we have weapons and we use them.
How about that? But they're all out there. I even saw one of a car spray painted. The only good ICE agent is a dead ICE agent. That's how they feel. Again, these aren't protests. I will promise you, this is a lot of the same crowd that we saw during the George Floyd riot, Summer of Love. Same blinking crowd. Probably paid for by the same blinking organizations. Now, are some people there to actually protest? Yeah, mostly you see them during the daytime. But at nighttime, under the cover of darkness, that's where the paid insurrectionists come in. And I don't think it's over. Last night when you saw what happened with that ICE officer being basically having his life threatened, looking like he was going to be beaten half to death, and then when you see the ramming of the vehicle, and then when you see them stealing a long gun from that vehicle, wondering who's going to use that. Let's go to Dale and talk to him. Dale, welcome.
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious. Why don't they use a water cannon on those protesters?
I would love to see that, Dale. I really, really would.
I would too.
And I have to laugh because there's nothing more poetic than seeing a liberal just flying through the air when it gets hit by a water cannon. It's a beautiful thing, Dale.
They might get chilled and have to go home.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I appreciate it, Dale. Thank you. You know, they got their Patagonia coats on, and they just. Let's go to Debbie in Fair Play. Debbie, welcome.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey.
I have an idea. Let's dox our protesters.
They should. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem with that, especially the violent ones.
Take a page out of their book.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right, Debbie. In fact, and I appreciate you calling and reminding me of that, the guy that stole the firearm out of the ICE vehicle, he has some very distinguishing tattoos on his face. Surely somebody, they're going to find him. They're going to find him. You get those boys over at 4chan, you get some of these folks out there online, they will find this guy. They absolutely will. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas.
When nasty weather strikes, stay in the know with the upstate's largest staff of meteorologists 24/7 on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
or call. One number does it all.
800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, let's head to the WORD talk line. We'll talk to Larry in Greenville. Larry, good afternoon.
Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Larry. What's up, man?
You just had a caller call and suggest using water cannons.
Yeah.
One thing he forgot to say was they should use water cannons loaded with capsaicin.
To make it sting just a little bit more?
It sting a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, once it hit the street, in Minneapolis, they're going to be sliding around like they're on a skating rink.
With capsaicin, they'd never forget it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But I tell you, I appreciate it, Larry. They're really you can find the videos online. These liberals out there protesting, they get hit with a water cannon, and then all of a sudden they just go tumbling through the air. It really makes my heart sing when I see it. I'm like, oh, look at that. Let's go to Ted in Pelzer. Ted, how you doing?
Hey, Charlie, thanks for taking my call.
Yes,
I want to bring up a couple of things. One, how much money are Klobuchar, Smith, Ellison, and Walls getting in donations through this back channel money that's being siphoned from the U.S. government?
A lot.
And not just donations, but sorry, I have to sneeze. Okay, but how else are they getting money? Is there money going into secret accounts somewhere? These are questions that need to be asked. The federal government needs to stop every single federal program going to states like this, because they're not enforcing immigration law, for one.
Right.
Number two, they're obviously complicit or incompetent when it comes to their own finances. So I think they need to have Doge-like audits done in these states.
Sure.
And third, I think it's almost time for martial law. It is time to roll in the federal troops and just go all out, water cannons and whatever it takes to bring the peace, because these people are – you want to talk about an insurrection, this is an insurrection.
Absolutely.
This is not a protest.
100%. And I think it's even going to get – and I appreciate it, Ted. I think it's going to get worse. Over the weekend. Now, here we are Thursday. It got bad last night. They're just going to be more and more emboldened. More and more. But here's what I would like to see, as well as all of those ICE agents and all of those Homeland Security agents going into Minneapolis. I would like to see an equal amount of IRS agents going in. That's what I want to see. You start digging and you go up their rear ends with a fine-tooth comb and a microscope, and you find out, we were hearing that in Minneapolis, the airport in Minneapolis, $6 million a week was going out of that airport in luggage. Now, wait a minute. Hold on. I did not think you could do that. I didn't think you could do that. I didn't think you could carry around that much cash through an airport without having some sort of documentation. They will take it. They will take it. Because remember they started doing that. Well, we got to do something about the drugs. So if you are carrying a large amount of cash, we have the right to take your money for no reason at all, no charges, no real suspicion. If you're carrying above a certain amount of money, they can just take it. And then you have to fight to get your money back. And in some cases, you don't get the money. It's called adverse possession. No, I think that's got to do with real estate. I can't remember the exact term for taking your money, legally taking your money. But why wasn't anybody in the feds alerted when all of this cash was going out in suitcases? I don't know. But that's what I would like to see, an equal amount of IRS agents going into Minneapolis. Man, you want to talk about some people, you want to talk about mass resignations? That would happen. That would absolutely happen. All right. Hey, there's a liberal out there who just came up with a brilliant idea, except she's a little bit behind the times.
Democrats, the only way we are going to survive this administration is for all of us to register as Republican. It's the one way that we can participate in the Republican primaries, and it's the only way to obscure gerrymandered maps. It's time. Just do it.
Just do it. Get out there and register as a Republican. Get out there and register as a Well, hey, darling, they've been doing that here in one way or another for a long time, at least the past 20 years here in South Carolina, more than that. So everybody's talking about now about closing the primaries. So we got a bill out there that is in front of the state legislature. It's going to be voted on I believe Wednesday in the it's going to get a hearing on Wednesday. And the more I look at this bill, 3643, the less I like it. The less I like it. Now, it is put out there, as is, nobody ever says, hey, here's some poison, take it. They always put it in something more desirable than a bottle of poison. And I think that's what's going on. Now, this was the bill that Drew McKissick pre-filed last December. Last December, he pre-filed this. And it could get a hearing. But don't get all excited about it, because it doesn't really close the crossover loophole that we need to have closed. The bill that we really, really want, the bill that we really need is 3310. Because in this bill, 3643, that they're going to be voting on Wednesday, there's a little provision in there that protects incumbents. And we all know that in Columbia, the number one thing they want to do is protect incumbents. In fact, some people say that clause was in there to stop David Pascoe from becoming Attorney General. Now, we'll talk with David Pascoe. We'll talk to Stumbo and anybody else is running for AG, because that's a very important position. But the less I see, the less I learn, the more I learn about this bill, 3643, the less I like it. We're going to talk more about it coming up at the top of the hour with Representative Josiah Magnuson. It's not good. And President Trump, coming up next, has just dropped some great news or a great plan about health care. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Breaking news and what to make of it all with me, Mike Gallagher, tomorrow 10 to noon, right after Terra on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Charlie Speaks. You listen on your time. Get the show on demand. Text podcast to 800-905-0989. The Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
And welcome back to the program. Glad to have you along with us on this Thursday afternoon. Let's go to the phones. We'll talk to Geneva in Fountain Inn. Geneva, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? Happy New Year.
Fantastic. Happy New Year to you. What's up?
I remember watching a documentary about 4 years ago where you were only allowed to carry $30,000 max out of the country cash.
Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't know the exact amount, but yeah. But they were going $6 million a week.
So the agent at that desk must be with them, helping them.
Well, you could certainly
taking that money.
Yeah, you could certainly imagine that was happening. I mean, this thing's probably this fraud that's going on in Minneapolis and Minnesota. It's probably got tentacles that reach to every corner of the state and even beyond.
Probably.
Yeah, and guess where all of that money was going? By the way, Somalia.
It wasn't coming to me, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't get any of it. I appreciate it, Geneva. Thank you very much. Well, President Trump has just outlined today part of his health care plan.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce my plan to lower health care prices for all Americans and truly make health care affordable again. We're doing things that nobody's ever been able to do. We're calling it the Great Health Care Plan. Instead of putting the needs of big corporations and special interests first, our plan finally puts you first and puts more money in your pocket. The government is going to pay the money directly to you.
All right, now I want you to imagine. Just imagine a Democrat president saying this. How the Democrats would respond. They'd be like, he's the greatest.
It goes to you, and then you take the money and buy your own health care. Nobody's ever heard of that before, and that's the way it is. The big insurance companies lose, and the people of our country win. This proposal locks in the massive discounts on prescription drugs that my administration is achieving through our most favored nation drug pricing agreement. Now, when you hear about that, for 40 years they've been trying to do it, but they never were able to do it. No other president was able to do it. I got every other country to approve it by the use of tariffs and other things. They all approved it. Nobody else got it. No other president got it. And for the most part, they didn't even try because they felt it was impossible. It'll bring down drug prices 80, 90%, in some cases, just numbers that nobody's ever heard of before. Your prescription drugs will come way, way down. And under this policy, the prices of many drugs will be slashed by 300, 400, and even 500% starting this month at the TrumpRx.gov. So instead of Americans paying the highest drug prices in the world, which we have for decades, we will now be paying the lowest cost paid by any other nation. So any other nation that's paying the lowest cost, that's what we're going to pay. And the American people will get the savings. So I have to reiterate, the lowest price in the world.
The lowest price in the world on pharmaceuticals. That would be lovely. Because for far too long, we've been getting the dirty end of the stick on pharmaceutical prices. Because why? Because it's all been a scam between Big Pharma and the insurance companies. Now, I would have thought that somebody like, any of these Democrats, Bernie Sanders would have been like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard a president say in my life. I think this is a wonderful idea, and thank you, President Trump, for bringing down drug prices, because I have spoken out against Big Pharma for decades now, and Is he going to approve it? No, of course not. Of course not. So, it ends kickbacks to brokers, insurance brokers. It's going to slash cost, locks in massive prescription drug discounts. It forces transparency. Hospitals and insurers on Medicare and Medicaid must post all prices prominently. I thought they had to do that anyway, but apparently they haven't been doing it. That's a huge win. But my big question is, When did we pass, or when did the Democrats pass Obamacare? Was it 2014? And here we are in 2026, and the Republicans never had a good health care plan between then and now? They should have come up with something like this a long time ago. Let's see how many Republicans support it. Let's see. Well, Caroline Levitt made some folks mad over on the left today.
Able to cover those costs. If this plan is put in place, every single American who has health care in the United States will see lower costs as a result. They will see more transparency. All of these proposals that are within the Great Healthcare Plan are incredibly popular with the American people, and they will impact everyone, not just a small fraction of those who are within the healthcare marketplace, but every single American will continue to see their costs go down. And I will note that they already are with respect to prescription drug prices. When you look at what the president has done with most favored nations, you've seen these big pharmaceutical companies in the Oval Office saying that this president and his team were nonstop around the clock pressuring us and negotiating with us to lower the cost of prescription drugs for Americans. And we are already seeing that to the tune, in some cases, of more than 500%. And that Trump RX website is something that the administration will be formally launching very soon.
I'd love to. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go see what they're going to offer. Oh, where do they do that? They do that at TrumpRx.gov. So we'll see what that website's like as soon as it's launched. But again, why is it taking this long for some? Because that was just all right. So when the Democrats, with no Republican support, virtually no Republican input, when they launched Obamacare, and by the way, do you remember what a huge debacle that the health.gov website was when it first went online? It was a disgrace. It was really bad. So why haven't they come up with a better plan until now? Well, now it's imperative, because if we can do away with Obamacare, and we can start paying you get to decide what. Well, guess what? You got to go shopping around, because right now here in the state of South Carolina, if you want to get on Obamacare, do you know who you got to go through? There's one company that you can go to, and they can set the price at anything they want. Anything they want. When we get back, we'll talk with Representative Josiah Magnuson about closing the primaries here in South Carolina. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Get breaking news sent straight to your phone for free. Download the Odyssey app. Follow News Talk 98.9 WORD. Stay in the know with the voice of the Carolinas.
Hey, Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie?
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9.
WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
America is back.
And welcome back. Well, we got a closed primary bill. I'm using air quotes there on this one. Let's find out more about it with State Representative Josiah Magnuson, who joins us right now. Representative Magnuson, welcome to the program. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Charlie. It's always great to be with you. I think we got good things coming this year.
I certainly hope so. We're going to start off with maybe getting a hearing on 3643, but that thing's got some problems, doesn't it?
It does, yes, sir. So, we're supporting 3310, and we think that, we need real close primaries. We got to have the real deal. You've got an opportunity for the real deal. Who's going to choose the knockoff version? But the knockoff version, the establishment bill, which unfortunately Drew McKissick is pushing out there, there's a couple of big problems with it. Number one, it's allowing for unaffiliated voters to continue on like they're Republican. So let's say a Democrat, is voting in a Republican primary. All they have to do is take no action. They just stay unaffiliated like they are now, and they'll continue to be able to vote under that bill. But the other thing is the anti-PASCO bill rule that's in there, which 2 out of 3 primaries, you have to vote in 2 out of 3 primaries in order to be a candidate. And on the surface, that might sound like a great idea. I think it's really directed against David Pascoe, which I haven't made an endorsement in that race, but I think they're concerned about any rooting out of corruption.
And that is, I mean, basically they just said this is about David Pascoe without mentioning David Pascoe.
I think it is. I think that's a way of closing people down. But I think the other interesting thing that needs to be mentioned, he's not the only prominent Democrat who has come over to the Republican side in recent days.
Right.
And trying to be a voice for the people. Another example of this is Harriet Holman, who's an African-American lady down there from the Low Country who actually became Republican and was, a lifelong Democrat. She has taken her name off of Drew McKissick's bill as of today, along with 5 other Republican members, because she would have been prohibited from running if this rule had been in place.
Yeah.
You know who else would have been prohibited from running if this rule was in place is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was a Democrat and was not voting in Republican primaries, but he flipped over and ran and became our nominee in 2016. But, if this rule had been in place in South Carolina, he would not have been our nominee. So we need to be careful what we ask for when we pass these sorts of ideas.
That is true. So let's say 3643 passes. Is there any way, so it gets a hearing in committee, is there any way that you guys can go in and maybe take the anti-PASCO clause out, maybe strengthen some of this language in it?
Well, we would love to, and I would certainly support, if there was amendments to do that. The good news is we don't have to.
Right.
This establishment bill is having a hearing at the same time as 3310 is having a hearing.
I
And
do,
all
well,
the
well, see,
subcommittee
that's
has to do
that's
is just pass 3310.
that's news to me because I didn't know 3310 was actually getting a hearing. That's good news. When is that? Is that also on Wednesday?
They're both at the same time, yes, sir, on Wednesday. And, all that would have to happen is a motion made in that committee to pass 3310 out rather than the establishment bill.
Right.
3310 is the clean bill introduced by Representative Mike Burns, and I'm a sponsor on that. He's been introducing that one for 13 years, and it's been introduced for about 7 years before that. It's actually a Republican Party platform issue, this primary thing. So we need to get it done.
Absolutely. There's also a couple of other bills out there, medical freedom and parental rights. Tell us a little bit of how those are looking.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. So we have a really unique opportunity on Tuesday at 10 a.m. where there will be a hearing on some medical freedom issues and parental rights, as you say. The bill by Tommy Pope is getting a hearing, which I was the main sponsor a couple years back on some parental rights legislation, but it's now being put forward by Tommy Pope, who's in House leadership. So that's a great, that shows how much momentum we have on the issue.
Right.
But then at that hearing, we're also going to have my bill on the taking the COVID vaccine off the market. And so we're really excited about that. And then also allowing for ivermectin over the counter. That's Jake Kilmartin's bill from Lexington. And so that all is going to happen Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. And, there again, we need people to call and ask for these bills to be brought forth out of committee and to the House floor.
Absolutely. Did you read the letter that was sent out by State Senator Josh Kimbrell about measles in Spartanburg County?
Yeah, I did. That one is one where I know there's a lot of people in our community being hurt, by this sickness. Pretty much my position is we're not going to be able to eliminate all sickness and illness. We've got to protect freedom regardless. And, I'm open to looking at ways to address, the concerns of people that are getting the measles. But I don't think that the answer is to eliminate the religious exemptions. I really don't agree with that.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. Representative Josiah Magnuson, always a pleasure to talk to you, sir. Like you said, we got a big, exciting year coming up, and we'll be talking a lot. I appreciate you calling in.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Always appreciate your help.
Yes, sir.
God
Take
bless you.
care. So if you're wondering about the letter that State Senator Josh Kimbrell wrote, I will read it to you coming up next. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of breaking news and stimulating talk begins every hour, every afternoon on The Charlie James Show.
News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. happen, type your message on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line.
800-905-0989. This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, you need to be getting on your phone and calling your state representative, calling your state senator for now about H3310. Tell them to get behind H3310. Now, I know that sometimes a lot of people don't keep up with it, but who is my state representative? How can I find my state representative? Coming up in just a second, I'm going to do a text link. I will give you what to text to 800-9050-989. That will send you a link. All you got to do is you got to put in your address, your city, and your zip code. Click on Find My Legislatures. It'll go up. It'll start off with Henry McMaster. Ignore that. It'll go to Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott. Ignore that. Then it will go to your state representatives, the people that represent you in Columbia. Those are the people that we're really looking at. And you need to be calling your representatives and tell them to vote yes on H3310. That's H3310. I'll have that link coming up for you in just a second. So a few minutes ago, we were talking with Representative Josiah Magnuson about a letter that went out from State Senator Josh Kimbrell. I want to read to you this letter, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. This goes to Spartanburg County School District 2 Board of Trustees, RE Measles Outbreak. Dear members, I'm writing to you today regarding the ongoing public health crisis we have in Spartanburg County, particularly as it pertains to the measles virus. Due to continued declines in childhood vaccination rates, the number of measles cases in our county continues to rise dramatically. This is now beginning to present a clear and present danger to public health in Spartanburg, particularly in our public school system. I have always been an advocate of individual rights and personal choice. I also place a precious premium on parental rights and how they raise their children. For these reasons, I never have and do not now support COVID vaccine mandates for minors. I think government at every level failed in its overreach with regards to the COVID response. This being said, I now believe that some folks have overreacted in the other direction and oppose any and all vaccines, even ones that have been tried and true for decades. While I deeply respect religious liberty and religious exemptions to certain vaccine mandates, Spartanburg County is now at an inflection point wherein public health is at risk. As senator and as chairman of our legislative delegation, I believe we must examine public school vaccine policy for communicable diseases like measles and polio. Public policymakers must balance private rights and public concerns. I look forward to working with you and other school districts to curb this continued outbreak and protect our students, teachers, and the public at large. So you guys let me know what you think about that letter. How do we balance that? Do we balance that? While I deeply respect the religious liberty and religious exemption in certain vaccine mandates, are now an inflection point. Interesting. Let's go to Bill in Brevard. Bill, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
It's back to earlier where a lady called and was talking about cash and how much you could carry on you. I know
Right.
if you do a transaction at the bank and go 10,000 over, they have to do paperwork and they send in the IRS. I called a pawn shop in Charlotte the other day. We're doing some precious metals, and they said they do 4,000 over. They have to turn it in.
Really?
4,000. Yeah.
So if you go to the pawn shop, you got a little gold or something, you want to sell to them, they give you $4,000. You got to fill out a bunch of paperwork. Why?
Yeah. Exactly right. I don't know. It's the same way like at bank at 10,000. I don't know that, but they didn't really give me a reason, but they said that's what they were told at the Hyatt Corn Shop in Charlotte. Was
That's what gets me, man. The government always wants to know what you're doing.
Yeah. And
Unless
I
you're
never did-
Somalian, then they don't care.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you. But what the lady also said, I never did hear. What was the legal amount a person could carry on their,
That I don't know.
themselves?
I have no idea.
don't know?
I have no idea. I'll look into it, though. I just hadn't had a chance to do that. Bill, I appreciate your call. Thank you. Want to go to Brian in Greer. Brian, you've got an opinion on this letter from State Senator Josh Kimbrell. Fire away, my friend.
Yeah, I think he makes a pretty decent point. But years ago, I worked for a company with a big A as a part of its name and was pressured into the vaccine that we talk about quite often.
Right.
So fast forward, I ended up having a baby girl 2 years ago in North Carolina, and we got pressured into a lot of vaccines when my wife had previously had 2 children, and she said she was kind of getting sick because we had some negative effects from one of the children.
Right.
So we pushed against it. And they threatened us with calling DPS and setting a case up against us and all kinds of other things. And the more they pressured us into doing it, the more I didn't want to.
Yeah.
The more I said, this isn't the best interest. So I think it should be up to the parents. That's our right and our privilege as parents to watch out for our kids. And the health care professionals aren't doing it. They're getting paid at the end of the day. So I think it's still, back in the day, measles weren't a big deal. I remember the Brady Bunch having episodes of that where they just stayed away from other kids. Like, it's a part of living, but I do think we need to protect our children.
Yeah, was that measles or chicken pox? I can't remember, but either way, Brian, was it measles? I appreciate it, pal. Thank you. Let's go to Clinton, Henderson County about the letter. Clint, how are you?
Okay, just a quick comment.
Yeah.
My wife and I are old enough. We never had a measles vaccine. We both got measles. We both got mumps. I read an interesting thing that back in the era before the vaccine, that just about every kid got measles, and 90% of them developed a lifetime immunity to it just from getting the disease.
Right.
And the reference to his letter about Spartanburg County, that's a lot of kids they're worried about. But where did all these unvaccinated kids come from? I mean,
that's a
where do
good
they
question.
have numbers
Yeah.
of them? Did all of a sudden during COVID, every parent said, well, I'm not going to get my kid to MMR? But I'll bet a little deeper digging, they very well could find there's a lot of unvaccinated kids not from this area or this country that they're dealing
You're
with.
right.
So,
You're right. You're right about that. And that's the first thing I thought about when I read this. I was like, wait a minute. Low vaccination rates. Why don't we take another look at that and see if we've just got a lot of people? Yeah, it's the WHO.
Who's not vaccinated? Yep.
You're right, Clint. I appreciate it. So if you guys would like to comment about State Senator Josh Kimbrell's letter, but here's the thing, though, because the stench of COVID and the vaccine mandates and the 6-foot social distancing and the mandated mask wearing, and the arrows telling you which aisles you can go down to go through, and which stores, and which, and the ridiculous plexiglass. That hadn't gone away. I still remember that, and I'm not going to forget it. If I had not gotten this job at WORD Radio, I would have lost my job down in Charleston. Now, it just so happened that there was that coincidence, that timing just absolutely worked out, because that company down there mandated that you had to have that vaccine. You had to have it. I knew a guy, same company, worked in New Hampshire, did his show from home, never went into the studio, never interacted with anybody but his own family. He got fired because he didn't get the vaccine. That's what the whole trucker thing was about up in Canada. These guys are in the cab, 8, 12, however long, never coming in contact with a lot of people. They were mandating. So whenever we talk about mandating vaccines, this is the reason why that people are skittish about them. This is the reason why people have started like, I don't know about that. been through that before. How many firemen, how many policemen, how many nurses, how many people, how many military members lost their jobs because they refused to take an experimental vaccine? But let me ask you something. I got another question about this, because he says that I now believe that some folks have overreacted in the other direction and oppose any and all vaccines, even ones that have been tried and true for decades. Let me ask you, are these the same vaccines that we had 10 years ago? Or has Big Pharma, at the urging of Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and all of these others, have they remade them in some sort of a mRNA type of vaccine? That's worth looking into. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Streaming stimulating talk and breaking news on your phone 24/7 on the Odyssey app. You're on the drive with the Charlie James Show.
News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas. Chat with Charlie.
800-905-0989. Save it on your phone.
This is the Charlie James Show, only on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, let's go to the phones and talk to Shay in Greer. Shay, what do you think about the vaccine controversy?
Hey, Charlie.
Hello.
So I really debated on whether I wanted to call or not. Unfortunately, vaccines are one of those cutthroat kind of topics. You're either on one side or the other. People get really nasty about it, but unfortunately, I am the mother of a son that, not really a vaccine injury, but because of vaccines, he now has a chronic autoimmune disorder. He actually has a chronic autoimmune encephalitis, which means his brain swells, and he has psychological issues because of it. So if they take away our religious exemption, unfortunately, it's almost impossible to get a medical exemption. He has one, but the pediatrician will only write it for 1 year, even though he is genetically he cannot have it genetically for genetic reasons.
Right.
So if they take away our religious exempt, there's going to be a lot of parents that are going to have no hope. And I'm telling you, from this disease, I've met lots of different parents across the nation that their child has the same thing. And in California, these kids can't go to school. They cannot be involved in sports because they are mandated to have these vaccines. But unfortunately, they have to choose whether to have a vaccine that could potentially truly harm their child or go to school. So in South Carolina, we really need to have medical freedom. We need to have freedom of choice because I'm telling you, this is happening more regularly. Kids are being affected more regularly. There are diseases that are happening because of these things. So if we take that choice away, there will be a lot of children hurting in the future.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, I mean, if you don't have a medical exemption, I mean, other than medical and religious, I mean, there are no exemptions, right?
No, nothing else.
That's it.
Religious exemption in South Carolina is very easy to get. That is the greatest thing. You just go to your DHEC office and they can do that for you. But a medical exemption is nearly impossible to get, even with issues like my son.
When did you, I mean, you said it was related to, but not because of vaccines that your son got this?
Yes. So after my son was diagnosed with something called PANS, pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome, we dug into his genetics a little bit further. We found out that he has a gene mutation. It's called the MTHFR gene mutation that causes his body not to basically get rid of toxins and get rid of heavy metals.
Right.
So if he were to get vaccines, his body cannot methylate that. It cannot get rid of it. So it hangs out in his body, and then it kind of boils over, and then you get an autoimmune disorder like his, and kind of too late at that point.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And your doctor, like you said, will only write it for a year at a time. So, well, Shay, I appreciate it.
It's a year period.
Oh no, really? A year period? He will not renew it at the end of the year with an exam?
No, he saw that it was a genetic disorder. He said, we'll do it for a year. I said, well, his genes are not going to change in that year. I don't.
Right.
I mean, I am a medical professional, and I know they will not change in a year.
Yeah, you don't change a whole lot genetically throughout your life, do you?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. I appreciate it, Shay. Thank you very much. Let's go to Tom in Greenville. Tom, welcome.
Hi, Charlie. I am the parent of a 32-year-old autistic son.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard, even though mine wasn't caused by vaccines, I have heard countless stories, anti-vaccine, of where moms took their perfectly normal kids into the doctor and came back and their kid had autism. And on an unrelated subject, I was born in 1955. One of my sisters had the measles. No one else in the house got it. The other sister, got the mumps.
Yeah.
No one else got it. I am furiously anti-enforced vaccines. This cannot be forced upon us. The school system in in California, where we came from, we signed a religious exemption, and so we go to kindergarten, and doctors and medical personnel are famous for intimidating you. No matter what the law says, you don't dare, contradict a health professional. We've got to have religious or medical freedom here. This is America. We make our own decisions.
I thought we had gone through all that after COVID. I thought all the politicians were like, "Well, this will never happen again." Didn't they?
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
But
they
now,
don't give up.
but now we got the super flu and we got the measles. And Tom, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Let's go to Tim in Greenville. Tim, welcome.
Hey, how are you, Charlie?
Doing good. What's up, man?
I was just going to tell you now. I have multiple children, but I have three in the younger, 6, 8, and 11. And I got the 11-year-old vaccinated with all his vaccination growing up. And then I read a study that a 5-year-old child has more shots than a 50-year-old man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I stopped it. The 6-year-old and 8-year-old have not had vaccinations. They're in school, and knock on wood, they have not missed one day of school for being sick.
Yeah. It's amazing how many vaccines they had us on, Tim, our kids on. In fact, RFK Jr. with Donald Trump, they have cut the vaccine schedule from 72 down to 11. From 72. By the time your child is born till they're 18 years old, or 17, we're 17, 18 years old, they get 72 vaccines. I don't ever remember getting that. I know it wasn't. I don't even remember getting 11. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of nonstop breaking news and stimulating talk kicks off every hour
On the Charlie James Show.
News Talk 98.9
WORD.
the voice of the Carolinas.
Interact on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line.
800-905-0989. Text or call. One number does it all.
800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
It looks like the Senate has just passed a government funding bill 82-15. It now heads over to President Trump's desk for signature, and that funded multiple departments within the government. They've now got to pass 6 more funding bills before the January 30th deadline, because we could go into a shutdown on the 31st. We will see what happens with that. I don't know. You guys out there and ladies that watch the NFL, have you heard about this? Have you heard that Disney and the NFL are about to sign a massive deal where the NFL games are going to be carried on Disney Plus? Good God, what happened? Well, I know what happened. That was a rhetorical question, ladies and gentlemen. I know what happened. It's money. It's all about money for Disney, money for the NFL. Used to be you could just watch it. ABC, CBS, NBC, they all had the ball games. You could watch Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. You could just turn on. All you had to do was turn on your television and click the channel. And there it is. Game's on. Hey, y'all, come on. Game's on. Click. And there it was. There was the game. Now you got to go, all right, what service is that on? Is that on Disney? Is that on Paramount? Is that on ESPN, ESPN Plus? What exactly? It is. I read somewhere that if you subscribed to all of the sites, if you subscribe to all the sites to watch all of the NFL games in a year, it would cost you well over $1,000. Hey, I know it's probably a lot more than that. So anyway, just bring it back to network television. Let everybody watch it. Not everybody wants to go subscribe to us, much less Disney, the wokest company in the world. Could you imagine the commercials you're going to see on Disney during the NFL? Yeah, it's going to be pretty bad. Pretty darn bad. All right, what do we got going on out there? Oh. If you think, and I know you sit around, day to day, if you're like I am, you just hate the Democrats. You can't stand them. You think they're vermin, and they are. Colorado Democrats have just introduced a bill to make ordinary citizens, liable for civil damages if they call in a tip to ICE. Yeah, you heard me right. It says if you are a civilian who calls in a tip to ICE, you could face civil damages. It's Senate Bill 26005 in Colorado. It creates a new civil lawsuit for immigration enforcement, and because it labels any person participating in immigration enforcement, it raises a real question. Could a private citizen who called in the individual who is injured during immigration enforcement activity, you could be sued. It does not exclude private citizens or protect good faith reporting at all. So if you call somebody in, if you say, hey, there's an illegal alien living in my house or living next door to me, and they get hurt during their apprehension, they can call a lawyer and sue you. How about that? That's pretty amazing. Okay, maybe that's not enough to get you to hate the Democrats as much as you should. Maybe this will push you over the line. Up in Minnesota, they've got a state senator named Bobby Champion. Last night, ICE officer was attacked by people with snow shovels and broom handles and sticks and all kinds of things, various and sundry items. And this officer, fearing for his life, took out his firearm and he shot one of them in the leg. All right? This is an obvious assault on an ICE agent. Want you to listen to what State Senator from Minnesota, Bobby Champion, said over on CNN, so you know it ought to be good.
If there were neighbors and others who came out to help this person, that is just an example of Minnesota being a place where we help our neighbors. And we are clear that the ICE agents have been coming here, and there's over 2,000 of them. And they've been attacking and terrorizing our state. So yes, neighbors will come out and be helpful. I'm not certain if they had brooms or shovel. That is to be further investigated.
If they did, in fact, have some sort of weapons to use to attack the ICE officer, would that change your opinion of whatever unfolded next?
Actually, no, right? Because from our vantage point, we wanted to make sure and always wanted to make sure that Minnesotans are being dealt with properly.
Yeah, well, I think if you attack an ICE agent, let's say, for example, if you try to run over an ICE agent with your vehicle and you hit him to the point where he suffers internal bleeding and he shoots you, I think that's appropriate. If you try to cave in the skull of an ICE agent with a snow shovel and he shoots you, I believe that's appropriate. Absolutely. So I'm wondering if State Senator Bobby Champion had people that were trying to attack him. What is the first thing he would say? Shoot him, shoot him, shoot him, somebody shoot him. Shoot him, Liz, shoot him. That's what he would say. Of course he would. If State Senator Bobby Champion of Minnesota was being assaulted by any sort of a gang, he would want those people shot. You see the hypocrisy of these people? You see how they are the most unlikable people on the planet. They're out there calling for ICE agents to be shot. And I'm not talking, they're not even hiding it anymore. They're not even slinking, slurking around in the darkness. Now they're out there, open, in your face, calling for the assassination of ICE agents. And then you've got Tim Walz, who's out there saying, hey, we need to turn down the rhetoric. Turn down the rhetoric? Who do we have, JJ? Let's go to John real quick in Greer. John, welcome.
Hey, sir, thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I have two suggestions for the Minnesota people. Number one, terminate all federal funding of any sort, shape, form, or function.
Yep.
That's one. Number two, I think we ought to withdraw all the ICE agents and let them go elsewhere and round up thugs, hoodlums, and ne'er-do-wells and transport them to Minnesota.
Into Minnesota.
In Minnesota.
There you go. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Charlie.
Thank you, sir. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
This is Lee Rogers. Be the first to break the news. Share your story at news@989WORD.com.
Hey, Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie.
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9.
WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
And welcome back to the program. I had a texter that asked me a question of something that I talked about earlier this week. It says, let's see, Charlie, can you tell us more about Blue Cross and Blue Shield, how they're connected to the Somali scandal? Why, as a matter of fact, yes, I can. There was Blue Cross and Blue Shield put out on one of their websites. This is an offshoot of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, but it is part of the parent company. And they put out a how-to video for Somalians. Want to hear it? Sure you do. Here we go.
Are you thinking of opening a family child care business here in Minnesota and would like to get information?
Now, wait a minute. I have to point out that this is a cartoon infographic. Everybody in this cartoon is portrayed as Somalian. Here we go.
If so, you came to the right place. We hope these videos will help answer some of the questions you may have and help you understand the process of family child care licensing in Minnesota and learn about the regulations required to run a family child care business. What is family child care? Family child care is a care provided in a caregiver's home where no more than 10 children are cared for at any one time, of which no more than 6 of those children are under school age. Why become a licensed family child care provider? Opening a family child care can be a very rewarding career and comes with many benefits. You are opening your house to children while you are caring for your own children. Somali parents and guardians believe in keeping Somali culture and religion alive and embedded in child learning. Parents and guardians expect that their child will receive quality care and stay in a safe and clean environment while reaching learning milestones. You, as a family child care provider, are in a unique position to provide quality child care and protect the health and safety of children in your care, while at the same time keeping parents' values and cultural beliefs intact.
While the process may seem overwhelming, remember that your county licensor will work with you in more detail in each.
Oh, I'm sure they will work with you in more detail. Let's go to Ron in Rock Hill. How you doing, Ron?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
I'm all right. What's up?
Well, that sounds like a massive theft to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, they're setting a maximum number, right? Then they're talking about having their own children at home, right? So would 0 qualify then?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Well, just checking since we're on that.
Yeah.
I want to propose an idea for how to solve the problem in Minnesota right now with the weapon speech coming from the Minnesota governor and so forth.
Right.
Go ahead and separate in regions in the country. You could even have 13 regions, but Minnesota region, take those citizens from that area and assign them to take care of this little situation there.
So just let the people deal with it?
That'd be kind of like, just keep it to their own region,
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, though. But see, that's the thing. They're stealing money from everybody. I appreciate it, Ron. They're stealing money from the people of Minnesota. They're stealing money from the kids who count on those programs that actually deserve it. They're taking that money. They're taking it from us. They're taking it from the people of Minnesota. And I believe it was Caroline Levitt that said today, or it was either her or Kristi Noem, that we're looking at possibly the greatest fraud scandal in the history of this country. And it was allowed. That's why ICE is in Minneapolis right now. We'll see what happens with that. All right. Oh, my goodness. Let me ask you something. When Republicans take the House, aren't we supposed to get Republican policies? Or are we supposed to get Democrat budgets with Democrat branding? Because that's exactly what's happening in Washington, D.C. This week, there was an amendment that was introduced to defund the National Endowment for Democracy, NED. $315 million. Your money, my money, borrowed money from our kids. And what happened? 81 Republicans voted no on defunding the National Endowment for Democracy, meaning they voted with Democrats to keep the funding going, meaning that 81 Republicans are part of the Uniparty. Now, if you don't know what the NED is, it was created back in the 1980s, and it was supposed to promote democracy overseas. Oh, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? Heartwarming. Apple pie, fireworks, freedom. But they have changed over the years into a slush fund for globalist activism, regime meddling, and left-wing NGOs. They have funded groups tied to censorship, political manipulation, and even organizations hostile to American interest. Now, this is a Congress that swore to uphold the Constitution. In that Constitution is the Bill of Rights. In the Bill of Rights is the freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And they have literally voted to fund an organization that tries to take those rights away from people. That's pretty amazing. So when Representative Eli Crane offered an amendment to defund NED, this should have been a slam dunk. Conservatives, yeah. American first, yeah. Fiscal responsibility, yeah. 81 Republicans, no. 81 of them. Now, we're not talking about moderates. We're talking about 81 Republicans. So the message they sent to the American people and to the Trump administration is, we hear you, but we don't care. This is why people are angry. This is why people don't trust Washington. This is why people don't like to go to the polls unless Donald Trump is on the ballot. When it comes to cutting spending, suddenly the Republicans and the Democrats, they all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Oh, they'll fight like cats and dogs on television over social issues. They'll scream at each other on cable news. But when it's time to protect the globalist money pipeline, that's when it's time to keep the whole NGO gravy train rolling. Isn't that touching? Isn't that touching? Of those 81 Republicans, I was looking today at who all voted for this. We had one member of the Republican delegation vote no on doing away with the NED, and that was Joe Wilson. Joe Wilson voted with Democrats not to defund the NED. Now that's pretty amazing. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Tara, Bill, Charlie, Joey, and me, Mike Gallagher. We lead the conversation each and every day on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
She speaks. You listen on your time. Get the show on demand. Text podcast to 800-905-0989. The Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, let's go to the WORD talk line. We'll talk to D in Thomasee. How you doing, big man?
I'm doing good, my friend Charlie. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. What's up, buddy?
Listen, this whole Minnesota fraud situation is absolutely mind-blowing, or should be, to the American people. And it's being said that it's the largest fraud ever perpetrated on the American people in history.
Yep.
All right. Tim Walz, there's absolutely no way that Tim Walz could be ignorant to this.
No
or
way.
The mayor of Minnesota.
Right, Jacob Fried. No, of course they all knew about this. They knew about it.
Well, exactly. And this is what is should be so mind-blowing for Americans, that Tim Walz under a Kamala Harris administration was one gnat's breath away from being president.
Oh, my gosh. Think about that. Oh, think about that. You're right about that, D. I mean, good gracious. He was so close. I appreciate it, D. Thank you very much. Yeah. Hopefully he's going to jail. They knew about it. Can't tell me different. All right. We got what do we got? About 36 minutes now until the new weather models come in. And by the way, I want to tell you this. We've been talking about before we get to the weather models, there's a bill that would actually close the primaries here in South Carolina. And we need you to get in touch with your congressman in Columbia and tell them to vote for H3310. There are two bills, H3643. That one's not good. The bill that would take care of our problems is H3310. So get in touch with your state representative, give them a phone call, get on their emails, however you can reach out to them, tell them to vote, because there's going to be a committee hearing coming up on Wednesday. Vote yes on H3310. Now, maybe you say, Charlie, I don't know who my representative is. Well, I got that taken care of for you. All you got to do is text SCREP. That's SCREP to the Common Sense Retirement text line at 800-905-0989. That's SCREP. You will get a link back that will take you to a page. You put in your address. It will bring up all of your representatives. It will start out with McMaster. Don't worry about that. It'll go to Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott. Don't worry about that. Those folks down below that, the ones that are in Columbia, those are the ones you need to be contacting and telling them to vote yes on H3310. It is vital, because they're going to try to kick this thing down the road until after the primaries. Don't believe me? Have you met the folks in Columbia? That's how they do. So, again, if you want to find out who your representative is, text SCREP, S-C-R-E-P, to 800-905-0989. Okay, let's get back to these computer models here. Coming up in just about 34 minutes from now, they're going to do another run. This one's going to have a lot more information about the possibility of snow coming up on Sunday. So right now, we've got three different models that basically say three different things. There was the GFS midday run. That is showing that this snow is just going to be like a glancing blow to the upstate. Nothing to worry about. It's going to be up. The heavy stuff is going to be up in eastern North Carolina, according to that model. Now, that's the GFS and the Euro totals. That's where that's going. Now, there's another model, the NAMS model. That's got some big snow maybe coming our way on Sunday. So we'll give you an update as soon as they run these new models coming up at 6 o'clock. When we find out what it's going to be, we'll certainly let you know what to expect. But there is a chance that the Southeast is going to get some pretty good snowfall coming up this weekend. But again, we don't know. It's just too far out to tell. So, okay. Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but NASA is obviously planning something, planning on something happening. Once you listen to a statement, a video that they put out.
Hello, this is Sean Dahl, the service coordinator at the Space Weather Prediction Center, providing you a little update about space weather. Not that we have any real significant activity happening on right now. There are some things going on, but more at the minor to potentially moderate levels. But we wanted to take this opportunity to test out some new video equipment and microphone capability that we now have as we do updates about significant activity in the future. So currently it's about 3:30 Eastern time, as you can see on the clock behind me. And one of my forecasters, our forecasters here, is working right now diligently checking out the potential for any solar flares, solar radiation storms, or geomagnetic storms over the course of the next 3 days.
So let me kind of interpret that for you. They got some stuff now at NOAA, did I say NASA? At NOAA that could be impervious or protected from mass coronal ejection or sunspots, magnetic storms. All right, so they got all this new equipment. And it just kind of struck me kind of funny because I have been hearing something over the past week, and the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's crazy. And then I saw it again, and I was like, all right, that's still crazy. And then I saw it like for a third, fourth, or fifth time, and I was like, wait a minute, what the heck's going on here? There is a thing going on out there, and some people are saying that coming up on November the 12th, no, I'm sorry, August 12th, and I don't know where these people get this from, but okay. The rumor has it that on August 12th, the Earth is going to lose gravity for 7 seconds. And go look it up online. There's all kinds of people talking about this. The Earth is going to, because of some crazy thing that's going on with a couple of black holes out there in space, that the Earth is going to lose gravity for 7 seconds. I want to count that down. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000. Folks, that's a long time to be without gravity. Will it come true? Well, much like, what was it? What was that thing? What was the big asteroid that was out there that somebody, anyway. Probably going to be nothing. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show, fully gravitational, right here on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Total consciousness for the afternoon swoon. You've tapped into the Charlie James Show.
The Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Let your fingers do the talking.
Text the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line at 800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, so I know that the SCGOP is pushing for H3643. We're talking about closing the primaries here in South Carolina. And after 20 years now, a couple of these bills are finally getting a hearing. H3643 has some problems, and somebody wanted to know what these problems were because right now the GOP is sending out mailers trying to tell people to get their representatives to vote for H3643. And then you have to wonder why. Why are they so adamant about that bill? Well, this bill is really a watered-down version of a bill that would close the primaries because it would allow unaffiliated voters to remain unaffiliated. That means all they got to do is not register. All the Democrats that normally vote in Republican primaries, all they got to do is say, hey, I'm not going to register with anybody. I'm unaffiliated, so I'll go vote in the Republican primaries. And then they'll turn around and vote Democrat in the general. So it really doesn't solve much of any problem. Whereas 3310 says you have to register. And it's got some other provisions in there as well. But there's another part, because remember, it's also about who gets to vote and who gets to run for office. Okay? So one of the provisions in there says you have to have voted in Republican primaries, I believe, 3 out of the last 4 Republican primaries. Okay. That, the way they wrote this, everybody in Columbia knows who that part of the bill is aimed at. It's aimed at David Pasco. Period. They do not want David Pasco to be able to run for Attorney General of the state of South Carolina. Now, David Pasco, I went to dinner with him a couple of months ago, and he was saying that, I asked him a question. I said, listen, is corruption worse now? Is it worse now than it was back when you did all the corruption probe a few years ago? He said it's much worse now. Much worse. And the last thing that the rhinos in Columbia want is somebody to go in there, whether it's going to be Pasco or whether it's going to be Stumbo or whoever it's going to be. The last thing they want is an attorney general that is going to actually look and dig into the amount of corruption that's going on. So, of course, they're going to try to protect themselves. Now, could that bill be cleaned up? Maybe. Maybe. But the best option to go ahead and vote for the bill that already takes care of all of these problems, and that's H3310. That's the bill you should really be telling your representatives to vote for, H3310. Now, I just told you that maybe you don't know who your state representative is. That's easy to find. All you got to do is text SC-REP to the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line, 800-9050-989. That's right there at the bottom of the screen, if you would like to. There you go. See, JJ just did it. JJ just did it, and it works. Ha 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 ha. So go find out. All you got to do is you just text that. It'll send you a link back. You put in your address, and bada boom, bada bing, it brings up all of your representatives. Again, I'll tell you this. It'll start out with Henry McMaster. Then it'll go to Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham. You don't worry about any of those. You look at those people in Columbia. So go ahead, text it. Text SC-REP to 800-9050-989. And when you get that information, get in touch with your representative and tell them to vote for 3310 to close our primaries. That has to be done. It has to be done. Okay. Have you heard, I know you know the name, but maybe you don't know the full story about Tina Peters. Tina Peters was in Arizona. I'm sorry, in Colorado. And like I said, you've heard the name, probably heard the headlines. If you only listen to CNN or read the New York Times, you think she's some kind of criminal mastermind who tried to overthrow our democracy with a thumb drive, but that's not the case. Tina Peters was elected the clerk and the recorder of Mesa County, Colorado. That means she's responsible for elections. She is responsible for elections. She was one of the very first local officials in the country to publicly question the integrity of the 2020 election. And now we know, rightfully so. So in 2021, they were doing what was called a trusted bill. They were basically, they were doing a system update on voting machines. And during that process, because Tina Peters did not trust these people, she allowed somebody that was not officially authorized by the Secretary of State's office to be present and actually access these machines. So that person copied some of the hard drives, the data system, from the equipment. Now, the state says it was a security breach, and it was criminal. Tina Peters says, I was trying to preserve evidence. I was trying to protect the public's right to know. I didn't trust what the state was doing. So a grand jury indicted her, and she was charged with things like attempting to influence public servants, official misconduct, conspiracy, failing to follow orders from the Secretary of State. They said she abused her position. She was sentenced to 9 years in prison. 9 years. President Trump has pardoned her federally, but Colorado will not pardon her on the state level. Well, there's a hearing going on right now, and it's pretty darn amazing at the prosecutorial misconduct that went on during Tina Peters' trial. Tina Peters was convicted on felony charges, but the prosecution used misdemeanor jury instructions. A judge asked point blank today if it's acceptable to convict someone of a crime that they weren't charged with or instructed on as long as evidence supports it. Well, the prosecution said yes. Well, the judge was pretty confused by that. One judge stated, I'm baffled at the position that's being taken. So the jury was instructed to use might. Now, that's misdemeanor language implying potential liability instead of the federal requirement of actual liability, resulting in an extra 15 months in prison. Judges emphasize this isn't a mere omission, but an affirmative misinstruction. The question why the remedy isn't simple entering a misdemeanor verdict, which it should be. So instead of the might be guilty or might have done all of this, that was the misdemeanor charge. And that's what the jury voted on. Yeah, she might have done that. Yeah, definitely. They used the might argument to go with the felony charges. That's prosecutorial misconduct. Because there are very different parameters around a misdemeanor trial and a felony trial. And the prosecution crossed that line. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
This is Mark Levin. Join me tonight at 7 following Charlie James for the Mark Levin Show, a News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
text or call. One number does it all.
800-905-0989.
This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Well, last night, J.D. Vance just defeated the anti-Trump war powers vote in the Senate on Venezuela. He cast the tie-breaking vote 51-50. That resolution has failed. And what that said was, because all of those people in the Congress, they got their feelings hurt, that Donald Trump went in there and in glorious fashion, went in and captured Maduro, no casualties, very little damage, and the way that operation was described is just absolutely mind-boggling. President Trump told you that we've got weapons the world has never even seen. I think we might have used one in that raid. These guys, I think it was like 20 of them, took out 300 of Maduro's guards. 300. Man. And that sent shockwaves throughout the world because, you see, you can't have peace through strength if you don't show strength. You got to show strength. But there's some people that did not want that exercise to be successful. In fact, there were people that were leaking classified information about the Venezuelan operation, leaking it. Now, I got to give them credit. I think it was the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. They had this information, but they kept it on the QT. Other people did release this information. Listen to Pam Bondi, because the leaker is apparently not having a good time right now.
And Sean, the First Amendment is a bedrock principle, but this isn't about that. This is about classified material that could jeopardize lives. And this IT guy that worked for Department of War, and Pete Hegseth has been amazing, and he's up against a lot with these people. This guy that worked, he was a contractor, IT contractor, who had classified information, is charged now with leaking classified information involving a foreign adversary. He could jeopardize the lives, the safety of our men and women in the military. So today, it's been reported that the great men and women of the FBI executed a search warrant at the direction of Kash Patel and my office on the reporter's home, seizing the devices that contained classified material regarding our foreign adversaries. And that's what we're looking into now. But the guy from the IT department is in jail. President Trump has made it very clear, you will not jeopardize the men and women in our military, and you will not leak classified information.
Good. Could you imagine? Could you imagine somebody hating Trump so much that they would leak classified information and put our military in danger? I can't imagine it. Oh, I can absolutely imagine it. Why? Because I've met these people. I know what they're like. So on a similar but different subject, President Trump has now put our military kind of on stand down as far as what is going on in Iran. Because now there's been a really big buildup in our military over in England and air bases over in the Middle East, and people were expecting that Trump was going to strike Iran. Still not ruling that out. However, President Trump, being somebody that is, the guy's smart. He was looking for guarantees from Pete Hegseth and the Department of War that when they took that mission, that the mission was going to be successful in bringing down the Islamic State in Iran. Now, right now, we've got people rioting in the streets. They're fighting for their freedom. They're being murdered en masse. Some people are saying over 20,000 have been murdered, many of them shot in the back. Rumors of executions. I don't know if those have happened. One was supposed to happen today. I don't know if that happened or not. But these people are over there fighting for their freedom and their liberty after being kept under the thumb of the Islamic State for all of these years. They're fighting for their freedom. And President Trump said help is on the way. Well, the Department of War and Secretary Hegseth could not give President Trump those assurances that this mission would be successful and there would be no further repercussions throughout the region. So the president, in an overabundance of caution and out of great prudence, decided to kind of hold off on that mission. Will it happen? I mean, I don't know. It might. Maybe they come up. Maybe they refigure everything. Maybe they look over things a couple of more times to see if that can actually happen. But again, you cannot lead through strength if you don't show strength. And when you've got Iran over there, and they're the number one nation sponsor of terror, sponsor state of terror, and they fund all of these terroristic organizations, for them to go away could be the single biggest stabilizing factor in the Middle East. They've been a problem ever since the Shah was removed from office. Thank you, Jimmy Carter. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
When Charlie's not teeing off on the left, he's teeing off on the links. You're in full swing on the Charlie James Show.
On News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
Hey, Charlie.
Let's talk.
It's the right talk.
Charlie.
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9.
WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
It's going to get cold tonight, down to 18 degrees in some spots. Of course, it's going to get a lot colder up there for you folks in western North Carolina and folks west of us, or north of us, rather. So be careful. You better leave those pipes dripping. One of the biggest fears of my life. I've never had it happen, but I don't want a pipe to bust in my house. So I'm going to leave 1, 2, 3 faucets dripping tonight. I know a lot of people say, oh, Charlie, you only need 1. I'm going to leave 3, though, just to be double safe, because that's just a hassle I don't want to have to deal with. They are still looking at the runs of these computer models. They're supposed to do that at 6 o'clock about whether or not we were going to be, or should I say what the likelihood of snow coming in on Sunday is going to be. So as soon as we get any updated information, of course, we'll pass that along to you. Well, illegal aliens in Minnesota, illegal aliens in Charlotte, illegal aliens in, you name the city, you name the town. They're here illegally, period. That is a violation of federal law. I don't care how these Democrats scream, oh, this is a civil violation. No, it's a violation of federal law. All right? So what ICE is trying to do is they're trying to go in and they're trying to round up the worst of the worst among them. Caroline Levitt stunned everybody in the fake news today. I thought it was pretty darn cool. Here's Caroline Levitt.
This off of the streets of Governor Walz's city in Minneapolis and of his state in Minnesota. If you look at some of the individuals in this photo, these are all illegal alien criminals who came into our country under the previous administration. This is some of the most disturbing crimes you will ever read about. And there's only a few reporters in this room who will actually talk about these individuals. This is all ICE is trying to do. They are trying to remove people like this from Governor Walz's state. And so, yes, he should pick up the phone and he should say that he will cooperate with this president and with the federal government in making Minnesota safer, because that's all President Trump and his administration want to do.
That's it. But if you ask a Democrat exactly what's going on in Minnesota, like Maryland Democrat Representative Glenn Ivey, they paint a different picture.
The president just threatened to institute the Insurrection Act. Is there anything you've seen that's led you to believe there's an insurrection going on?
No, as a matter of fact, it's I think a dangerous and illegal escalation of the situation. You've got people out there exercising their First Amendment rights in a nonviolent way, as far as I can tell. And certainly they have the right to do that. But this is just an attempt to sort of intimidate them and push back. Same thing when they surged up more ICE agents a few days ago.
So what is funny is right there at PMS now, they're actually showing videos of these people shooting fireworks at ICE agents. ICE agent last night was attacked with several people. It was 3-on-1. Got attacked with a snow shovel. Tried to cave his skull in. He had to shoot one of them. Then you've got an ICE vehicle that was rammed. The hatch popped open. They went in. They broke open a lockbox, stole a firearm, and stole ICE documents. And there's a guy online that's posting all of that. This guy at Mercado Media. He's online posting all of this stuff. And this stuff has to do with who they're going after, when they're going after them, and things like that. This isn't exercising your First Amendment right peacefully. This is an out-and-out revolt. It is indeed insurrection. And you know who, and then when you hear that the Minnesota police were actually given stand-down orders not to help the members of ICE. Yeah. Who is doing what? They're trying to enforce federal law. And Governor Walz and Jacob Fry and all of these, they're giving stand-down orders, and that to me is also insurrection. Because we're not talking about a group of rioters that just got upset over something. They got upset over the enforcement of federal law. There were people out there chanting, "No borders, no states, no borders, blah, blah, blah. No nations, blah, blah, blah." These are anarchists. And they're trying to do everything they can. They're not going to win this fight. They're not going to win this fight. At least I hope they don't. Because that would be disastrous if they did. Look, the feds cannot let them win this fight. Because if they win it there, they're going to win it everywhere. They're going to, anytime they decide maybe to go back to Charlotte or up in Durham or wherever, this is what people are going to do. So, listen, I don't know when it's going to be over, but it'll be over soon. And if one of those people, like the person that stole the rifle from one of the law enforcement vehicles, kind of unclear whether it was ICE or the FBI, doesn't matter. They've still got a hold of one of their rifles. But these people are calling for ICE agents to be shot. And if that happens, don't you think that Donald Trump is not going to enact the Insurrection Act? Listen to this guy.
I have an idea. A No Kings protest, but we have weapons and we use them.
Oh, look at this. All of a sudden, they support the Second Amendment. We have weapons and they shoot them, but he's not the only one out there.
We, the people, need to start taking back this country, and immediately, because they have corrupt, fake people in these placements like ICE that are allowed to be masked, covered, not identify, do whatever the they want, and murder people without knowing who they're killing, just killing civilians. And Trump's okay with this and is allowing this to happen, and it's now happening all over in the Midwest. This is not okay. What the America and Americans? How stupid are we to keep allowing this to happen? I say it's time for everybody to start getting guns and start coming out of their houses and start shooting these ICE agents in the head when they start trying to take over people.
How about this one?
Hey, so look, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't really care about the consequences anymore. I don't care. We need to kill these people. There's just an alternative. I don't care if you say, "Oh, I've got the crazy eyes," whatever. Yeah, I do feel crazy because we've had 3 people die in 72 hours, and we've had over almost 30 die in the last year, to a group of quote-unquote law enforcement that is basically just buffed up mall cops, right? Who are gun-triggering happy Proud Boys. Let's call them what they are. It's the Proud Boys. Why do you think we didn't hear about them? Any of you heard about the Proud Boys all year? Suddenly no more Nazi marches? None of that. Right. There we go. They're Nazis. Peyton said it best. They're Nazis. And the only way to stop this, let's be honest, is going to be to get violent. We got to get violent, people.
Let's see what happens when you get violent. Because I don't think you're used to violence. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
15 minutes of breaking news and stimulating talk begins every hour on The Charlie James Show. Afternoons 3 to 7 on News Talk 98.9
WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. Charlie Speaks. You listen on your time. Get the show on demand. Text podcast to 800-905-0989. The Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
So the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, he's got a real good idea. Let's take a listen to this.
And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors.
The police chief's reaction when he said that was like, what? I'm sorry, what? Fight ICE agents on the street? I guarantee he wants nothing to do with that. Let's see what else he said.
We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another. Why are we put in this position?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because you did not enforce the law. You refused to enforce the law. In fact, Jacob Fry asked, why aren't they doing this down in Florida? Why isn't ICE going down to Florida? And, well, it's a real good reason. Because Florida is cooperating with ICE. In fact, Florida is doing more than just cooperating with ICE. A lot more.
So our legislation will ban illegal aliens from benefiting from any down payment assistance programs or silent second home mortgages, whether it is done by a government agency, a quasi-government agency, or an NGO. Because some of these nonprofits will go out and they will create these programs specifically to go out and target illegal immigrants for down payment so they can purchase homes. So we believe that's important to be on the books because you never know what the future of the state of Florida is going to look like. I'd rather have it on the books than try to pass a law later if for some reason we do not have sensible, common sense people in control of the state. It will prohibit illegal aliens from receiving any license issued by the Department of Financial Services. One of the things that we need to do as a state is we need to make sure that when we are issuing licenses, that we need to check to make sure that they are in the country legally. But almost as important is to make sure that we can revoke any license that has been issued when they had legal status.
Whoops, sorry about that last part. Blew my ears out there. But yeah, see, that's why they're not going down to Florida. Because Florida is actually being, not only are they being active, they're being proactive. They're getting ahead of the game. Where Minnesota is allowing fraud, they're allowing all of these people to just roam the streets. That's why ICE is there. And it just shows you exactly how antithetical to the American way of life people like Jacob Fry and Tim Walz are. That's pretty amazing. So Florida slamming the door on immigration. And that's the whole thing. Because you should not be able to we are the only country that makes it easy for illegal aliens. We should make it more difficult. It should be hard to be an illegal alien in this country. It should be so hard that people are like, it ain't worth it. Hey, I've been there. It ain't worth it. But they made it easy. Mayorkas made it easy. Joe Biden made it easy. Merrick Garland made it easy. Kamala Harris made it easy. By the way, we got a story about her coming up. They made it not only it would be harder for you to go on Magic Mountain down at Disney World than it is to come here and be an illegal alien. I don't know if you've ever seen the line there at that ride, Space Mountain. It's unbelievable. But no, they just walked in. They got their little phone, got their little debit card, got their little pat on the back, said, hey, now you check in with us in a couple of years when we call that phone that will probably be obsolete by the time you receive that phone call. and the same phone that you're probably going to throw away once you come to the first trash can, or you'll just throw it in the desert. Joe Biden made it super easy. No, they made it simple. Simple. Charlie, question on either of the Minnesota ICE shootings. Why are the liberals blaming the shooter and not the gun? Ooh, you're exactly right. Why are they calling for? In fact, they're doing the opposite of that. They're doing the opposite of calling for gun control. They're telling people to go out and exercise their Second Amendment rights. Go out there and do it. Yeah, I know they're hypocritical. I know. Hey, Charlie, the longer a violent conflict is prolonged, the more casualties there are in total, and the more human suffering is magnified. So I agree with those influencers. They can bring their guns, and they can bring our guns, and we'll see who's left. War doesn't decide who's right. It just decides who's left. Hell, it won't turn out good for them. Charlie, it would definitely be harder to get into Disney without a ticket than than the U.S. You're exactly right. You can't get into Disney without a ticket. You can't get into Carowinds without a ticket. But in the United States of America, come on in. Everything is fine. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but we had a border czar in this country. What was her name? I remember her name. What was her? Oh, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was assigned a border czar to take care of the problems at the border. However, she never went to the border. Well, I rephrase that. She went near the border. She didn't go to the border. She went to the airport in El Paso. She didn't go to the border wall. She went to the airport, and then she went to the ICE facility that was adjacent to the airport. That was as close as she got to the border. She was supposed to be the one that was taking care of all of this, but she did not, because she didn't do anything, really. Now, the only thing she did do was go down to the Golden Triangle down in South and Central America and promise them a whole lot of money. Well, she did nothing. She failed miserably at that job. She failed miserably as vice president. She failed miserably as a candidate. But now she's reaping the rewards. She wrote that book. What was it? 107 Days. That was the name of that book. And apparently it's done so well that Kamala Harris has purchased an $8 million home in Hawaii. $8 million. She paid for this home in Hawaii. Man, things are good for Kamala. Things are real good. Good grace. Now, this is the same woman that that caused the the Democrat Party to go wildly into debt. Wildly into debt. She spent billions in 170 days. She spent several $1 billion on a failed campaign. And on a government salary, Kamala Harris bought an $8 million mansion. Some people say it was in Malibu. Somebody said Hawaii, but this is actually in Malibu. It's a 4,000 square foot property at Point Dume. She bought it in December of 2025. 4 bedrooms, a pool. Oh, it's lovely. $8 million. Apparently, Kamala Harris is not really worried about sea level rise. Now, here's the weird thing. And I told you this was going to happen. All of those people that lost their homes during the Palisades fire, remember those? They're not getting them back. They're not getting that land back. The state of California is going in, and they're taking that land, and they're going to sell it to developers. But for some reason, these people will still vote Democrat. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
When nasty weather strikes, stay in the know with the upstate's largest staff of meteorologists 24/7 on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas. Tap and type your message on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line.
800-905-0989. This is the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
All right, welcome back to the program. Let's go to the phones and talk to Jason in Lawrence. How you doing, Jason?
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, bud.
So, I kind of want to wake people up. I mean, it's, to me, just following everything over the past 8 years. I mean, it's a diversion. And I can tell you where it started, and I'll be very fast about it. Right. One, the election was stolen, so the guy that they stole it from got his stuff together and said, I'm going to prove to everyone what is really happening. The truth is going to come out. That is where you have to follow the money. You have to follow the money. Then we get, I don't know, something horrible happens, Hurricane Helene. Oh, we don't have all the money we need to give to help these people who are homeless. Why do we don't have all this money? Oh, because it's in Medicare and it's in housing. Well, where's everybody being living at? Oh, it's illegal aliens. Yeah. All right, so let's follow the money into that. All right, we're starting to take care of that. Oh, ICE. Let's point the finger at ICE. Let's point the finger at ICE. All right, let's take away from the fact that all the money that has been stolen and being used by the other party, they're trying to divert the public into focusing on other things. That's why you have the Epstein files being buried right now. Who's talking about that anymore? That's why you have all that kind of stuff that's like could expose where the money's come from, just like the old school days. Donald Trump is an old school guy. He's following the money like the feds used to do against the mafia and the cartel.
Yep.
The Democrats don't like that, so they're pointing the finger at other directions.
You're right, and I can think of nobody that's more happy about everything that's going on in Minneapolis than Tim Waltz and Jacob Fry, because now all of a sudden nobody's talking about all the fraud that was going on.
And it's not just Minneapolis.
Yeah.
It is not. Any blue state doing the same thing, we just haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
We're focused on this one thing because the other side is pointing the finger at that one state.
Yeah. So, well, we will definitely see, Jason. I appreciate it. Great point there. Well, now in Minneapolis, even some of their state representatives, this guy, Brad Tabke, is doxing the live locations of ICE agents to help illegals evade arrest and guide anti-ICE agitators who look for agents to harass. They're actually pouring water right now. They kind of look silly doing it, but they're pouring water at the entrance of the ICE detention center there in Minneapolis because they want the ICE agents to slip and fall. Now, let's go to Larry in Cleveland County. Larry, welcome.
How you doing?
I'm good, bud. What's up, man?
Listen, I want to talk about Hillary Clinton and Bill.
Yeah.
All the stuff they're involved in, is there going to be any justice behind that? I mean, let's take a point. Peter Navarro,
yeah,
Steve Bannon,
yeah,
they was convicted and in jail, according to Tara Savation, in less than 3 weeks. How does that work that fast?
Well, they were convicted. They weren't in jail in 3 weeks, but they were convicted within 3 weeks. And Jim Comer is thinking about, well, we are looking at filing charges against Bill and Hillary Clinton for defying a congressional subpoena. What do you mean you're looking at it?
Yeah, so they're going to walk, right? And the corrupt Washington, D.C. judges, they're going to walk, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's no law nowhere, right?
Right.
In Washington, D.C.
Well, it just depends on who you are.
Oh yeah.
It depends on who you are. If your name is Clinton, you can get away with it.
Hey, and I want to tell you, we appreciate you.
Thank
you're
you.
right up there with a top 10. And you're the best in the world, and I love hearing you. And we just you have no belief how respect we love you. And I want to hear somebody on the line talk about this Clinton thing. And we did get fired up for our country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We appreciate it, Larry. And listen, I mean, and as the previous caller was talking about, what happened to the whole Epstein thing? Now, the Democrats were screaming about the Epstein files. Well, we got two people that were supposed to testify. One of them had been on the plane, the Lolita Express, many, many times. The other one was his wife. who also met with Jeffrey Epstein. Congress would like to talk to him in this investigation, and they're saying no. So why aren't these Democrats out there screaming about it, Bill and Hillary Clinton going in and doing? Because they don't want to be. You see, all of that ended. All the Democrats screaming about the Epstein files, that ended when Representative Plaskett was caught texting with Jeffrey Epstein during the Michael Cohen hearing, when Hakeem Jeffries, his campaign, was caught soliciting funds from Jeffrey Epstein after he had been released from jail, when George Stephanopoulos and Katie Couric went to dinner with Jeffrey Epstein after he had gone to jail. And then Katie Couric on her podcast says, I didn't even know who the guy was. What do you mean you didn't know who the guy was? You know exactly who he was. But you know what? He was a billionaire. And you wanted to cozy up to a billionaire. That's what you wanted. So then when we found out all of these ties that the Democrats had with Epstein, all of a sudden they got real mum about it. They're no longer screaming about that anymore. No. They got better things to scream about now. It's all a distraction from the Democrats' lies and the fraud that they commit against this country, every single bit of it. I want you to listen to attorney Mike Davis talking about Mayor Jacob Fry.
Who think that they can, by force, resist these immigration efforts. That is textbook insurrection. That is textbook seditious conspiracy. Those are very serious federal felonies, along with assaults on law enforcement, along with harboring illegal aliens, along with conspiracy. Generally, I would say to Governor Walz and Mayor Fry, you're playing a very deadly game here, and you could end up in federal prison if you do this. In addition, the president can and should invoke the Insurrection Act, which is passed by Congress to allow the president to federalize the Minnesota National Guard to assist federal law enforcement in executing federal immigration laws and to put down this insurrection.
I don't think it's going to take much more. I don't think it's going to take much more for President Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act. But how would it be if he did, that he would call in the Minnesota National Guard, the people that Tim Walz actually threatened Donald Trump with? Let's go to Richard in Dallas. How you doing, Richard?
I'm good, Charlie. Hope you are.
I'm great, bud. What's on your mind?
You got your snow skis waxed up?
Oh, Charlie don't ski.
Okay, let's go on.
Charlie does a lot of things. Charlie don't ski.
Okay, yeah, the other day, last night, you was talking about people above the law. And
Yeah.
the man brought up Bill and Hillary.
Yeah.
And there's also Brannon, Clapper, Comey,
Yeah.
Eric Holder,
Yeah.
and Lois Lerner there in the IRS. I'm pretty sure what she done was against the law.
Absolutely.
And then you got Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. You know,
Yeah.
he sat over there in that organization said, you fire the prosecutor or you don't get the money.
Yeah.
Charlie, even these guys up here, the governor up here in Minnesota, if they find that he's associated in any way with this fraud that's been going on up there, he's allowed it to happen, nothing will happen to him. Charlie, nothing happens to him.
I know.
Protected.
And that's a
But part
shame.
of-
That's a shame. Now, I will admit, I appreciate it, Richard. If there is an indictment on any of these people, it's going to be hard to get a conviction because they have put so many rogue judges on benches all over the country for one reason: prosecute the conservatives, protect the liberals. We'll be right back. It's the Charlie James Show. News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas.
Charlie tells it like it is, whether they like it or not. You're locked into the Charlie James Show on News Talk 98.9
WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. Chat with Charlie.
800-905-0989. Save it on your phone.
This is the Charlie James Show, only on News Talk 98.9 WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
10 U.S. Code 252. Use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority. Whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages, or rebellion against the authority of the United States makes it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call in to federal service such of the militia of any state and use such of the armed forces as he considers necessary to enforce those laws or to suppress the rebellion. So see, you don't even need to be in open rebellion for the president to enact the Insurrection Act. You could just not be enforcing the laws. Now, you got to go through a little bit of a process. Can't just call it out because somebody didn't arrest somebody. But what we're seeing right now in all, and you know what? Hey, lean in a little closer. This applies to all sanctuary cities, every one of them. If you interfere with federal law enforcement, enforcing federal law, the president he's allowed to use the military to enforce those laws. So they got two different things here. You either enforce the law, you can do it in that, or you can put down a rebellion. You can do it there too. Now, the Democrats, they just want you to think it refers to putting down a rebellion. But it's more than that. Again, whenever a president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call in federal service the militia of any state and use the armed forces. So, yeah, he can do that. He can do that. Well, the people over at CNN, oh, my goodness, they're absolutely losing their minds over this. Because, why? Well, because they're CNN. So, let's take a listen to Scott Jennings over on CNN with the usual gang of idiots.
Scott, are there going to be midterm elections?
Yes, I'll bet everybody here a steak dinner.
So, in case you don't want to, President Trump was he made a joke about canceling midterm elections.
Scott, are there going to be midterm elections?
Yes, I'll bet everybody here a steak dinner. We'll have a midterm election.
Oh, great.
I'll bet you all a steak dinner. And if we have an election, you can all buy me one.
We'll probably be here.
Of course, this is the new bloodbath, right? I mean, we're going to take this out of context, and Caroline explained it perfectly. I mean, what he's saying is, my gosh, we're doing so well, we shouldn't even have to, have a question about this. Of course, we're going to have elections, and we'll see what the American people want to do. I'm not convinced that the outcome's already predetermined. Historically, the party out of power should do well. They're going to have an economic story to tell. I'm convinced about that in 2026. But the president's a realist. He knows what history tells us about midterms. And by the way, he's right about impeachment. His opponents tell people every day that everything he does is illegal. If they win the House, their base isn't going to forget that. They're going to expect him to be impeached for all of his illegal actions. So he has good reason to say that.
And it will die. Scott?
So they just freak out. And again, it's like the bloodbath. When President Trump was obviously talking about the automotive industry, they blew that out of proportion, which is just what they always do. They lie, twist, steal, cheat. That's just the way they are. But the president can invoke the Insurrection Act against what's going on in Minnesota. And I don't think it's going to take a whole lot more for him to do that. I think first of all, if an ICE officer or a Border Patrol agent gets killed, I think he'll do it. I think that's going to be the line in the sand. I think if several more get attacked, he's going to do it. Well, even we have Jacob Fry. I played for you that clip a few minutes ago. Jacob Fry talking about the Minnesota police fighting against ICE, and the police chief raised his eyebrows like, I don't know about that. Because that would be open rebellion. These citizens are committing it right now. They're committing the rebellion. But when the state or local government of Minneapolis or Minnesota, when they decide, if they do, to fight back against ICE, that will be their government enacting an open rebellion. And I don't think that's going to go over very well with President Trump. I really don't. So again, if somebody gets killed, if many more get injured and attacked, or if they start fighting back, then yeah, I think President Trump, and he should. He absolutely should. So it is now night. It's 5:55 in Minneapolis. We've already got protest rioters, insurrectionists gathering in under the cover of darkness. And we'll see what happens. Charlie, what's the South Carolina bill we need to support? I will tell you that again. It is House Bill H. 3310. That is H. 3310. That's the bill that you need to get in touch with your representative to support. And maybe if you don't know who your representative is, that is very easy. Text SC Rep to the text line 800-9050-989. Text SC Rep to 800-9050-989. That will bring up who your representative in Columbia is. We're not talking about the Washington folks, just talking about the ones in Columbia. Tell them to support H. 3310. We'll talk more about it tomorrow, and that's when I'll talk with you again. Y'all have a lovely evening. God bless. Buckle up. Bye, y'all.